A mediocre office worker, depressed and deeply dissatisfied with his miserable life, wakes up one day to find himself on the brink of something impossible. This is the story of Dreamland Adventure. The story begins inside a dull corporate office. Our protagonist works in the advertising department of the Grand Glory Company, and it is immediately clear that he is the kind of employee who takes on far more work than he can handle. He is exhausted, overworked, and barely holding himself together. His boss soon appears and delivers grim news, claiming the company is going through difficult times, and that mass layoffs are coming. Under the thinly veiled threat of being fired, the boss orders him to work harder, and hands him a list of potential clients to contact one by one. By the next day, results are expected. From this interaction alone, it is obvious that the boss is cruel and manipulative. Despite his fatigue, the protagonist keeps working late into the day. That is when something strange happens. His vision begins to blur, the world loses focus, and everything around him starts to pixelate. A mysterious figure suddenly appears on his computer monitor. Unsure whether what he is seeing is real, he freezes. A coworker notices something is wrong and calls out to him, revealing his name to be Howard. At first, he does not respond, but then he snaps back to reality and claims he is fine, blaming it on temporary blurry vision. Concerned, his coworker advises him to take a break, and reminds him that the company dinner is scheduled for that evening, an event organized by their boss. While this may sound enjoyable to an outside observer, Howard immediately dismisses it, knowing that everyone will be forced to split the bill. With his low salary, attending would only cost him money. His co-worker, realizing the reason for Howard's reluctance, offers to lend him $20 so he can attend. He also explains that attendance is mandatory because the company's new director will be announced that night. That director is Sabrina Lua. She arrives at the office in style, instantly drawing every eye in the room. Her presence alone leaves the men speechless. Howard, however, knows immediately that someone like her exists far beyond his reach. Later that evening, the company gathers for dinner. Everyone is drinking, laughing, and pretending to enjoy themselves when Howard experiences the same phenomenon again, only far more intense. His irises begin to glow, a deafening buzz fills his head, and his nervous system suddenly links to some form of virtual reality visible only to him. The same strange image appears above him, yet no one around him seems able to see it. A robotic voice speaks. It explains that the limited Universal Star is dedicated to providing unforgettable experiences through advanced virtual reality. Howard grows anxious, confused as to why this is happening to him. He has never purchased any virtual reality equipment and cannot afford such technology. As if reading his thoughts, the voice responds that, based on extensive data and calculations, Howard is the perfect candidate for the dream test. He is informed that he will be sent to Dreamland, a simulated world where he can experience many different lives, essentially a vastly superior version of a virtual reality game. Images flash before him as examples, presented in a strangely mocking manner. Irritated and overwhelmed, Howard demands that it stop. He insists he has work tomorrow, and no time for this nonsense. The system explains further. It can copy real people into Dreamland, allowing him to determine the direction of his new life. Then it asks him a single life-altering question. Would he like to live as someone else? Before Howard can answer, the new director enters the restaurant alongside his boss. She is formally introduced to everyone, one by one. A notoriously sycophantic employee is presented first, drunkenly leering at her without shame. As the introductions continue, Howard is deliberately ignored. Sabrina notices this omission and asks about him. Nervous and shaking, Howard tries to speak, but his boss cuts him off and declares that Howard is a nobody, mediocre at best, and incapable of proper communication. These words crush him. They are blatant lies, spoken out of pure spite. Unlike the other employees, Howard never flattered his boss, and for that, he has been targeted relentlessly. Sabrina does not appear impressed by the insult, and simply greets everyone politely. The dinner soon ends, and the employees begin heading home, knowing they must return to work the next day. Howard is left deeply shaken. He believed that hard work would eventually earn recognition, but reality proves otherwise. A coworker tries to comfort him, suggesting that advancement requires submission and obedience to authority. This triggers a flashback to Howard's school days, when he was once a leader in student protests against the system. He used to stand for something. Now, he has become the very thing he once despised. Outside, Howard overhears his boss attempting to flirt with Sabrina, claiming that she should not waste time on insignificant workers. She calmly dismisses his arrogance, stating that she knows exactly what she is doing. When the boss realizes Howard has overheard the conversation, he makes a thinly veiled threat, declaring that anyone who does not understand their place should be fired. That is the breaking point. All of Howard's anger, frustration, and humiliation boil over. His effort, his loyalty, and his dignity have meant nothing. Discriminated against both inside and outside his workplace, he finally resolves to quit his job the next day. Consumed by rage, he turns back to the robotic system and orders it to copy both his boss and the director into Dreamland. The system responds with an error, explaining that it can only scan one person at a time. Based on the request, the chosen target is Sabrina Luo. The scan completes and her character is created. Later, back in his apartment, Howard questions why the system failed to warn him about this limitation. The system responds that it detected a massive spike in dopamine, concluding that he is enjoying the situation. Embarrassed, Howard admits that having a beautiful woman as an in-game companion does sound appealing. The system informs him that Dreamland will activate at midnight, and advises him to find a safe place to sleep. Howard says he is too anxious to fall asleep, but the system assures him this has already been anticipated. It will temporarily interfere with his ascending reticular activating system, the part of the brain responsible for wakefulness. Without resistance, Howard slips into unconsciousness, unaware that when he wakes up, his old life will be over, and his struggle for survival in a ruined world will begin. The process begins. Howard grows increasingly nervous as the world spins around him, and his heart pounds faster and faster. Before he can panic any further, his consciousness fades, and he falls asleep as peacefully as a baby. Almost immediately, he wakes up in the way most people could only dream of, with a half-naked two-dimensional woman hovering above him. She casually introduces herself as the AI administrator of Dreamland. Her name is AI-63. Howard stares at her in confusion as she begins explaining the system. She tells him about the shop and credit system, where he can purchase items that may become vital in the future. A military knife costs 2 credits. A 100-ton truck costs 40 credits. A temperature-regulating shirt, compressed food packs, and an infinite energy battery cost 200 credits. At first these items seem oddly priced and insignificant, but it will later become clear that every single one of them is priceless in the world he is about to enter. She explains that completing challenges will reward him with credits, following rules that feel familiar to anyone who has seen similar scenarios before. Howard thanks her for the explanation and asks about NPC companions, wondering if there is anyone strong enough to assist him. The AI calmly replies that for 10,000 credits, she herself could serve him. Howard immediately thinks it is a bargain. She then warns him that Dreamland is about to activate. If he has no more questions, things are about to become serious. A portal opens before him, leading directly into a ruined, apocalyptic world. As Howard approaches the portal, everything suddenly goes black. He wakes up again, this time lying in his own bed. Confused, he looks around his apartment, trying to determine whether everything he experienced was real, or just a dream. Nothing seems different. He reasons that creating an entirely new world from nothing is impossible, especially with technology he barely understands. Deciding it was all in his head, he prepares for work and heads to the bathroom. That is when he notices the power is out. Slightly unsettled, he walks down the stairs of his apartment building as usual, still not noticing anything strange. The moment he steps outside, reality hits him. He is completely alone. There is not a single person anywhere in sight. A strange buzzing sound fills the air. Howard looks up just in time to see a massive airplane falling from the sky. It crashes and explodes right in front of him. You might think this is where the story ends, but somehow, he manages to dive behind a car just in time, narrowly avoiding death. A message appears before him. The Dreamland Apocalypse survival simulation has begun. The objective is simple: survive. All humans have disappeared. The difficulty level is set to 0. He has 180 days to live. Before he can process this information, he hears the sound of liquid dripping from the car beside him. When he looks down, he sees a pool of gasoline spreading toward his feet. Once again, he barely escapes, fleeing just before the car explodes. Screaming in disbelief, Howard realizes that this world has no intention of going easy on him. After recovering from the initial shock, Howard forces himself to think logically. He writes down his needs in a notebook and starts planning his priorities. 180 days may sound like a long time, but without supplies, it could end quickly. If he gathers enough resources, he might survive. He even begins thinking about what his life might become once this ordeal ends. With no one left to judge him, Howard indulges himself. He raids clothing stores for the best outfits, takes jewelry, and drinks the most expensive alcohol he can find. After all, he is the only human left in the world. Then he remembers something important. The system copied Sabrina Luo into Dreamland. Using the radio in a police car, he attempts to contact the system and asks about her copy. Before he receives an answer, he hears a sound behind him. He spins around, only to find a dog. This makes sense to him. With humans gone, animals would roam freely. He begins suspecting that the AI tricked him, and that there is no woman at all. That thought vanishes when he hears another noise. This time, it is a tiger. Howard nearly panics as the animal leaps toward him, but instead of attacking, the tiger gently licks him. Surprisingly, Howard recognizes it. The tiger had been friendly toward humans before the apocalypse, often posing for tourist photos. Against all logic, he survives again. 7 days pass, and life grows harder than he ever imagined. The water supply runs dry, forcing him to rely on bottled water from abandoned stores. Without electricity, refrigerated food rots, and worms infest everything. Howard survives on cookies, knowing his body cannot endure a lack of proper nutrition for long. His luck finally changes when he discovers an old restaurant equipped with a diesel generator. In a world like this, that generator is worth more than gold. Even better, there is still usable meat in the freezer. He decides to turn the restaurant into his shelter. During the day, he scavenges for supplies. At night, he prepares land to grow vegetables, using rotten meat as fertilizer. The days blur together. By day 34, Howard drives through the empty streets, unsure of what to do next. He begins hearing the voice of a coworker, criticizing his choices and suggesting better ones. Howard knows it is an illusion, a creation of his mind. He admits it openly, and even suggests that if he lets go of the steering wheel, he could crash and wake up back in reality. The imaginary coworker tries to encourage him, pointing out that his garlic plants are sprouting. Howard snaps. The city is filthy, flies are everywhere, and at night he feels as though worms crawl across his skin. The darkness suffocates him, and the silence convinces him the world has abandoned him. He has reached the edge of sanity. As the imaginary coworker urges him not to give up, something suddenly jumps into the road. Howard slams the brakes. Another car appears out of nowhere and crashes into him. When the dust settles, he realizes who it is. Sabrina Luo died. The airbags deploy, and she loses consciousness. When she wakes up, she finds herself in a strange place with a bandage on her face and wearing men's clothing. She explores the area and realizes she is inside a restaurant powered by a generator, with fresh food laid out on a table. She eventually finds Howard shaving his beard. After 30 days alone, he wants to look presentable. He invites her to eat. During the meal, she recalls seeing him at the company dinner, but admits she never learned his name. He introduces himself, realizing that this version of her carries the same memories as the real woman. She is impressed by what he has accomplished alone, managing electricity, food, and shelter. When he asks about her past month, she explains that everyone vanished suddenly, and that he is the only human she has encountered. Howard asks what she plans to do next. She has no answer. Seizing the moment, he asks her to stay with him. He promises to take care of her if she gets sick and provide everything she needs. It is not the most graceful proposal, but in this broken world, she has few alternatives. She agrees, though she makes it clear that he is not her type, and warns him not to try anything inappropriate. For a man who was talking to imaginary people days ago, this is still a massive victory. He accepts her conditions without complaint. She suggests they share the workload. He agrees but insists she rest for the day. Tomorrow they will start working for real. Though he hides it well, the rejection hurts him deeply. Still, their story together has only just begun. The next morning, Howard wakes to a loud noise echoing through the building. Wondering what she could possibly be doing so early, he gets up to investigate. In the hallway, he finds several large boxes scattered across the floor. When he asks her what she is doing, The answer he is about to receive will change everything once again. Sabrina calmly replies that she cleaned out the restaurant's storage room and turned it into her personal bedroom. If he needs her, she adds, he can ring a bell. Howard is visibly upset, but that is not the worst part. She also threw away the mannequin that had been leaning there, the same mannequin that had become his only companion in this desolate world, much like Wilson was for a certain castaway. She says she can go get it back, but Howard coldly tells her not to bother. Angrily, he storms off to retrieve the mannequin himself. Before leaving, he turns back and declares that from now on, they will each do their own laundry and cook their own food. Confused, Sabrina asks why. He answers that it will allow them to see each other less often. That way, she will not have to stay constantly on guard around him, and he will not feel awkward whenever he looks at her. The man is clearly tilted beyond reason. Sabrina still does not understand what his problem is. Howard finally explains that even though she is a beautiful, wealthy woman with a higher position than his back in the company, in this world he will act like the gentleman she probably expected him to be before. With that, he leaves, clinging to his wounded pride. Time passes. More than 90 days go by, and the story jumps ahead to day 120 of the apocalypse. Howard still needs to survive until day 180 to clear the challenge. Over the past 3 months, the city has changed. The weather has grown colder, and the unbearable stench of decay has faded. Sabrina has filled the shelter with flower pots, softening the atmosphere and making the place feel more alive. Despite all of this, they barely speak. Sabrina seems perfectly fine with the silence, but Howard is not. He spends his days talking to the mannequin, whom he has named Donald, his only true friend in this broken world. One morning, he tells Donald that they need to look for meat, and jokingly asks whether he would prefer spoiled meat from the market or rat meat. Thankfully, Howard decides they will go fishing instead. Before that, however, they make a stop at the zoo to visit Dummy the tiger. Dummy has been surviving by hunting other zoo animals, supplemented by meat Howard occasionally brings him. Suddenly, the tiger's instincts flare, and he dashes forward. What he spotted was nothing less than a deer. These were not zoo animals anymore. They were wild deer, proof that nature was reclaiming the city. As Howard processes this, the atmosphere shifts unnaturally. Thunder rumbles, a powerful wind sweeps in, and the sky darkens in moments. Howard realizes too late that a typhoon is forming. Panicked, he rushes into his car, unable to understand how such a massive storm could appear on a previously sunny day. Then it hits him. This is a simulation. A game. The typhoon is another challenge. His thoughts immediately turn to Sabrina. She rides her bicycle up the mountain every day, and by now she should be near the summit. Even though they have barely spoken in months, he cannot allow anything to happen to her. Losing her would mean being completely alone again. He races back to their shelter. The door is open, confirming his fear that she has not returned. Without hesitation, he drives straight toward the mountain path she usually takes. The storm worsens with every second. Rain lashes down, lightning splits the sky, and the wind howls violently. At last, he spots her. She is leaning against a post, barely standing. Her leg is badly injured, a deep gash visible even through the rain. Howard rushes to her and lifts her into his arms, carrying her to safety. They find shelter in a large mansion at the top of the mountain, a place Sabrina used to visit before the world ended. She is soaked, shivering uncontrollably. Howard asks to examine her wound, but she refuses. He snaps back that this is not the time for pride. An infection could kill her. Still, she insists she can handle it herself. Even as the only two humans left on Earth, they cannot stop clashing. Howard lays out a plan. They do not know how long the typhoon will last, and their original shelter will almost certainly flood. He suggests they make the mansion their new base. Sabrina agrees without argument and asks what needs to be done. Howard tells her to stay put and rest because of her injury. He will handle everything else. He leaves her behind and heads back into the storm alone. The weather grows even worse, and soon snow begins to fall. When he reaches their old shelter, he finds it completely flooded. The generator has failed. He grabs as much food as he can, but a surge of water destroys most of the vegetables they work so hard to grow. With barely anything left, Howard realizes their supplies will last no more than 2 days. Fishing is impossible in such conditions. Desperate, he resorts to an idea he never wanted to consider. He drives to the zoo. There he finds Dummy the tiger badly injured, clearly having fought something powerful. Howard's original plan was to rely on the tiger's hunting ability, but seeing Dummy like this changes everything. He tries to coax the animal into the car so he can treat its wounds, but the tiger refuses to move. Howard shouts, begging him to follow, but the tiger roars back, making it clear that he will act on his own terms. Howard tells himself that this is just a game, that he should not get attached. He turns away and leaves the tiger behind, the moment heavy with regret. Back at the mountain mansion, Howard finds Sabrina collapsed on the ground outside. When he asks what happened, she explains that she tried to collect rainwater to boil for them, but slipped and cannot stand up. Without hesitation, Howard lifts her and carries her inside. Inside, he finally takes control. He firmly tells her that from now on he will be the one making decisions. He places her on the bed and retrieves a first aid kit. As he cleans and treats her wound, she asks what he plans to do next. He explains that he once saw a herd of deer nearby and intends to hunt them the next day. She warns him that wild deer remember the scent of danger and become extremely alert. He replies that it does not matter. He has weapons. He then shows her a pistol he found hidden under her pillow when he went back for supplies. He left the bullets inside and hands the gun to her. She asks why he does not keep it for himself. He says no, hoping that this gesture will ease her distrust of him. They part ways for the night, knowing he needs to prepare for the hunt. Day 121 begins with snow falling heavily. Howard bundles up and steps outside, fully aware that he does not even know how to kill a chicken, let alone a deer. As he moves forward, he senses something watching him. A pack of hungry wolves lurks nearby. The cold bites into his skin, his breath turning to mist with every step. The world is silent, except for the wind and the crunch of snow beneath his feet. Suddenly, he hears something and quickly turns, weapon ready. Nothing is there. This happens again and again. He can hear them, feel them watching. They know his every move. Perhaps Sabrina was right. Exhausted, Howard decides to try fishing instead. He casts a net into the river, despite the raging current caused by the storm. It is reckless, but he has no choice. He throws the net and silently prays. Almost immediately he feels a powerful tug. The net tightens, and before Howard can react, he is yanked straight into the river. The freezing water knocks the breath out of him, stabbing at his skin like needles. When he finally claws his way back to the surface, soaked and shaking, all thoughts of fishing vanish. He just wants to go back to the mansion and warm himself by the fire. That is when he sees it. A deer stands nearby. Howard immediately ducks down, careful not to alert it. His hands fumble through his bag until he pulls out a shotgun. There is no room for hesitation. He steadies himself, takes a deep breath, aims and fires. He misses. The recoil slams the gun back into his face, smashing into his nose and drawing blood. Cold, injured, and humiliated, he barely has time to react before danger closes in. The wolves appear. Unlike Howard, they are not reckless. They see his injury, judge the risk, and decide it is not worth it. One by one they retreat into the snow. Howard does not understand their behavior, but in the condition he is in, he can only be grateful. He staggers back to the mansion, exhausted and defeated. Inside, he finds Sabrina waiting by the fire, wrapped in a blanket, trying to keep warm. For the first time in a long while, things almost feel normal. Howard hurriedly strips off his frozen clothes, caring only about warming himself. The moment is awkward, heavy with tension. Sabrina averts her eyes at first, but her gaze drifts. She notices a photograph tucked into Howard's wallet, a picture of another woman. She asks about it. Howard explains that it is his ex-girlfriend. Sabrina says she is pretty, and asks why they broke up. He answers honestly. He wanted a family. She did not. He asks about her in return, whether she has someone waiting for her. She says yes. His name is Lawrence. He has a doctorate from Manhwa and is the CEO of a technology company. Howard scoffs, muttering that the man may be successful, but he clearly has poor taste if he chose to be with someone as difficult as her. Sabrina snaps back angrily. In the heat of the argument, she forgets the situation she is in and drops the blanket while trying to cover her eyes. The realization hits both of them at the same time. Embarrassment floods the room. Sabrina yells at Howard to leave immediately, throwing whatever she can reach in his direction. He retreats, his face burning, his thoughts in complete disarray. The following days pass with no improvement. Howard continues trying to hunt deer, but every time he gets close, they vanish like ghosts. He has never handled firearms before this world, and his lack of skill shows. Still, he keeps trying. At least, something has changed. Sabrina speaks to him more now. She does not complain when he comes back empty-handed. But something is wrong. She is growing weaker. Her injury is not healing, and hunger is wearing them both down. Howard suggests building a trap, a pit lined with sharpened stakes and disguised with cabbage leaves. He hopes the wolves, desperate in winter, will fall for it. Sabrina tells him he should have discussed it with her. The work is dangerous, and he is already exhausted. Howard admits he is at his limit. This is his last attempt. Tomorrow, they either survive, or they do not. When he returns to the trap site the next day, it seems to have failed. Then he notices blood. The animal escaped, wounded. Hope surges through him as he follows the trail through the snow. The trail leads to a clearing. 2 wolves are there, tearing into the remains of a deer. The food that could have saved them is already gone. With no other choice, Howard raises his gun and fires wildly, driven by hunger, fear, and rage. Every shot misses. The wolves scatter, dragging the remains away with them. Howard collapses to his knees in the snow. He tells himself it is just a game, that he should control his emotions, but the truth breaks through. He screams into the empty world, a raw sound of despair from someone who has reached his absolute limit. Day 126 arrives. All that remains to eat is a single tomato and a cabbage leaf. Sabrina insists Howard eat, saying she has done nothing to help lately. He tells her they are both dying and that pride no longer matters. She finally agrees. As they sit together, she begins to speak about her past. Until she was 18, she says, she lived like a puppet, controlled by others, especially her father. He was authoritarian, emotionally abusive, and kept her isolated. He told her she was different from her siblings, that she would abandon the family just like her mother. He claimed she was nothing without the family's power. That trauma shaped her. Her obsession with independence is her way of surviving it. Howard tells her he understands. He speaks about his own life, about working hard and never being rewarded, about living in mediocrity without recognition. She asks if he has any strength at all. He says that if he does, it is his refusal to give up. Once he sets his mind on something, he keeps going. She tells him that hard work alone is not enough, that the world only notices those who shine brighter than others. Her goal is independence. He will find his purpose when he truly strives for something. Howard asks if helping her survive will earn him recognition. He admits that all he ever wanted was for someone to tell him that he mattered. Sabrina questions how she can prove her independence by accepting his help, but reality leaves her no choice. They are starving. She accepts. Howard takes the cabbage leaf and leaves the room, barely able to stand. Before going, he tells her that if he does not return within 3 days, she will likely find his body in a stream east of the mansion. If that happens, he tells her to do what must be done. Outside the mansion, Howard speaks to Donald the mannequin, who has long been his only confidant. He admits that he never truly fought for anything. Instead, he complained, shifted blame, and hid from difficult choices. He says he failed his family, his ex-girlfriend, his education, and even himself by always retreating into a safe corner where he could feel sorry for himself. He promises Donald that he will stop whining, that he will never run away again. Then, with a quiet resolve, Howard pushes the mannequin away and steps forward into the snow, finally ready to face the consequences of his choices. The scene opens on the mansion balcony, a quiet but powerful symbol of the death of the man he used to be. From there, the story shifts abruptly to a kitchen. A feminine hand grips a cleaver. It is Sabrina, standing over Howard's lifeless body. With trembling resolve, she raises the blade and brings it down, only to jolt awake. It was a dream. The weight of Howard's final words before leaving had shaken her so deeply that even in a world built from dreams, her mind created another nightmare. That detail is important. After all, they are living in a post-apocalyptic world constructed within their own minds. The project itself is called Dreamland. If this reality is already a dream, then how can someone dream inside it? The implication lingers as the story moves forward to day 127 of the apocalypse. Howard is outside, shoveling snow, struggling for breath as he makes his way back to the frozen river he once fell into. He recalls something crucial. The only time he ever got close to catching a deer was when he fell into the water. Every other time the animals escaped before he could approach. The river must have masked his scent. Realizing this, he forms a desperate plan. It is a gamble, but in their current state it is the only chance he has left to survive. Inside, Sabrina is fighting a different battle. She forces herself to stay awake, terrified of dreaming again. Hunger and exhaustion begin to distort her perception. She hallucinates her father standing before her, calling her pathetic and blaming her for her situation. He tells her she would never have ended up here if she had simply followed the path he chose for her. She shouts at him to disappear, and for a moment, the vision fades. All she has left to eat is a single tomato. As she stares at it, she remembers Howard's words and the deal they made. That memory strengthens her resolve. She will survive. She will prove she can stand on her own. Hours pass. Her eyelids grow heavier. Then she hears a faint sound. A rat has found her tomato and is gnawing at it. She lacks the strength to stop it. Her father appears again, laughing at her weakness. He reminds her of Lawrence, the wealthy, elderly man she was meant to marry. All she had to do was stay with him until he died, and she would inherit everything. Even her marriage had been arranged. Her father mocks her, saying that if she cannot endure even a little suffering, she will never survive alone. He insists she is not strong, merely pretending to be. In the end, he says, she will be devoured by rats. The story grows heavier. Outside, a deer calmly eats kale in the snow. The scene cuts back and forth between prey and predator. Sabrina grips the gun Howard gave her. She whispers that she does not need to be saved. She does not need anyone to rescue her life. In the rat's eye, we see the reflection of her gun. In the deer's eye, we see the reflection of a buried shotgun. Howard has hidden himself beneath the snow, masking his scent just as he theorized. He waits patiently. When the deer steps into range, he fires. At the same moment, Sabrina pulls the trigger and kills the rat that tried to steal her food. The chapter ends with 2 shots echoing across the frozen wasteland. The next chapter begins with the deer lying lifeless in the snow. From beneath the white surface, Howard emerges, triumphant. His plan worked. He laughs and shouts in celebration. Inside, Sabrina eats her tomato and roasts the rat she killed. Survival has stripped away hesitation. Then the door opens. Howard enters, dragging the deer behind him. She is stunned. He actually succeeded. But he has pushed himself too far. Exhausted, starved and freezing, he collapses to the floor. Sabrina rushes to him. Ice clings to his clothes. He truly suffered to bring back this food. Hours later, she has butchered the deer and prepares hot water to warm him. She asks if he feels better. There is no answer, until he suddenly grabs her arm. Startled, she leans closer. In a weak voice, he asks if he has earned her recognition. Surprised, she tells him yes. He is amazing. The validation brings him quiet happiness. Later, deer meat soup is ready, but he remains too weak to eat. She decides to act. Opening his mouth, she feeds him in the only way she can, passing the food from her own mouth to his. Whether awkward or intimate, it is an act of care born from desperation. He continues shivering despite 3 blankets. Realizing it is not enough, she makes a choice. Biting her lip, she undresses and lies beside him, sharing her body heat to keep him alive. She wraps herself around him and whispers that everything will be okay. Day 130 begins. Howard wakes up and, for the first time in days, he is not alone. Sabrina lies beside him, curled close. He's shocked, especially when he realizes she is completely bare. As she moves to leave, he holds her gently, saying he still feels unwell. Their conversation turns personal. She asks about his ex-girlfriend. He explains that she thought they were too young for something serious. Pressed further, he admits he wanted a family. Sabrina surprises him by saying she wants one too. He does not understand. Was she not trying to prove her independence? She explains that success was never the point. It was just a goal she set to break free from the limitations imposed on her. In chasing that freedom, she trapped herself in another kind of prison. How could she call herself independent when she could not even make decisions alone in this frozen world? Howard is speechless. He never even had a goal of his own. She asks him directly if he wants a family with her. He hesitates just long enough to make her fear she has gone too far. Then he takes her hand and says it is exactly what he wants. In striving so hard for recognition, he forgot what truly mattered. She promises they will survive together. He agrees. Now, the thought of having a family becomes his new motivation. They kiss, sealing that promise. But in the final moment of the act, a memory surfaces. Sabrina recalls being a teenager, bound and silenced by her father, who told her it was time to introduce her to the world of adults. The past, it seems, is not done with her yet. And then calls man and a woman into her room, instructing them to strip and act on the thoughts they have on the couch. Sabrina turns her head away to avoid seeing it, but her father grips her head and forces her to look, insisting that she must learn how to please that old man she was set to marry. That guy is really messed up. Then he says something that really confuses me, mentioning that it's better if they both appear to be a genuine father and daughter. To achieve that, he plans to change her name. From that point on, she would be known as Sabrina Luo. What I don't get is whether she started living with him after her mother left, or something like that. Maybe this will be clarified later on. Anyway, after that night, time moves forward. A month passes, and the story jumps to day 160 of the apocalypse. Howard still needs to survive for 20 more days to clear the simulation. Since then, he and Sabrina have been living together as a couple. Howard never fully recovered from his near-death experience, but he is well enough to work. The deer meat is long gone, yet he manages to catch fish from the river, and together they begin building a small greenhouse for vegetables. Sabrina puts genuine effort into it, working diligently every day. One afternoon she calls Howard over and tells him she has a gift for him. His expectations immediately drift in the wrong direction, but he is quickly proven wrong. She presents him with a poncho made from deer skin, something incredibly useful for hunting, especially for masking his scent. For the first time in a long while, the balance has shifted in his favor. After a successful hunt, Howard feels nostalgic and decides to revisit the places tied to the early days of the apocalypse. He passes the lamppost where he once found Sabrina injured during the storm. He visits the old restaurant, remembering Donald, the mannequin who once kept him sane. He walks past the site where the airplane crashed in front of him on his very first day. Finally, he heads to the zoo to check on his old companion. Calling out to Dummy while holding a deer leg as an offering, Howard suddenly hears a terrifying roar. Despite Dummy's injured leg, the tiger is charging toward the sound. Howard runs after him and arrives just in time to see Dummy being attacked by a pack of wolves. He raises his shotgun and fires, injuring and scaring them off before they can finish the job. He rushes to Dummy's side, telling him it is safe now, only to realize he is too late. The tiger is gravely wounded, barely able to move, letting out only weak sounds. Howard kneels beside him, placing a hand on his fur as memories of their time together flood back. Dummy was a good creature, loyal in his own way. Howard apologizes for not arriving sooner. The tiger looks into his eyes as if understanding. Howard tells him that the pain will soon be gone. With trembling hands he raises the shotgun, tears streaming down his face, and pulls the trigger. Thus ends the life of Dummy the tiger, a harsh reminder that nature is merciless. The story continues with Howard and Sabrina sitting together in a bathtub, the warm water easing the cold that has settled into their bones. Sabrina notices that Howard seems distant and asks if something is wrong. He brushes it off, saying nothing happened, but admits the world is growing colder and more dangerous every day. He asks her to stay home for a while, not to confine her, but because he is worried. She agrees, saying she has plenty to do in the greenhouse anyway. Their moment of warmth does not last long. Soon, Howard is back out hunting. Now dressed in deer skin and skilled with both shotgun and knife, he has become efficient, almost frighteningly so. But just as he hunts to survive, the wolves do the same. The story shows a pack of wolves chasing deer through the snow. One wolf leaps onto its prey, fangs bared. Suddenly it hears a sound. Thinking another deer has been left behind, it charges forward, only to realize too late that it has walked into a trap. A knife flashes, and the wolf is killed instantly. Back at the shelter, Sabrina calls out to Howard, but he does not respond at first. When she tries again, he snaps out of his trance. She tells him he has been distant lately and asks what is bothering him so she can help. Todd. He dismisses her concerns and tells her to go back to sleep. She is left confused and uneasy as he slips back into his obsession. All Howard can think about are the wolves. The pack of 4 is now down to 3. He is determined to eliminate the threat completely. When the remaining wolves hear a strange sound, they split up. One approaches a bush, sensing something familiar yet wrong. It sniffs the air, steps closer, and before it can react, a shotgun barrel is forced into its mouth. A single blast ends its life instantly. The remaining two wolves hear the explosion and turn toward him. They lock eyes with Howard, their gaze filled with raw hatred. Day 170 arrives to Wei. Only 10 days remain, yet Howard barely acknowledges it. His mind is consumed by the wolves. That murderous stare is burned into his thoughts, and he believes he will only find peace once the threat is gone. Sabrina calls out to him, saying she has prepared steamed fish and roasted meat, proud of how much she has improved her cooking. Howard barely listens. He says he will just take some dried meat and leave for a few days. Frustrated, Sabrina asks why he has been leaving early and returning late, why they can no longer even eat together. Howard coldly replies that there are things he needs to finish, so he can finally rest easy. He walks past her without emotion. Tears fill her eyes as she begs him to tell her what is wrong. Fearing that her pride would drive her to danger if she knew about the wolves, he lies and says, it is nothing serious. Day 173 begins with Sabrina waking to a harsh sound. Hammering. She looks around in confusion and realizes that the windows of her room have been completely boarded up. The protagonist stood outside the house, hammering nails into the wooden frames of the windows, sealing every crack he could find. The cold had grown harsher with each passing day, and he explained that he was reinforcing the house before the temperature dropped even further. Sabrina watched him for a moment before saying she had never asked for his help. He cut her off immediately, saying he was not in the mood for jokes. She insisted she was serious. Lately he had been acting strangely, distant, secretive. It felt as though they had gone back to the beginning, when nothing was certain between them. He claimed she was mistaken, but she did not back down. They had rushed into this relationship, she said. Had he thought of it as nothing more than a one-night stand? He denied it, stating that everything he was doing was to protect the house. That was when she exploded. If he truly wanted to protect their home, she shouted, then he should at least show her some respect and tell her what was going on. For a long moment, he stood speechless. Then he too erupted. They had agreed that she would stay home while he searched for food. She could not help him with what he was about to do. Finally, he told her he would explain everything once he was finished. Disappointed, Sabrina turned her back on him and walked away. The protagonist, cold and detached, pushed the argument out of his mind. He noticed he had run out of nails and would need to visit the hardware store. His thoughts drifted instead to the two wolves that had been hunting him, and how they had managed to outsmart him. Snow continued to fall, erasing tracks. The temperature had dropped to nearly -30 degrees, and it would only worsen. The wolves could wait. His immediate concern was warmth. He had to ensure they survived the cold. At the tool store, he found the building surprisingly well maintained. Inside, he searched for supplies until something caught his attention. A book. It was a diesel generator maintenance manual. Almost amused, he flipped through it and quickly realized he now had the knowledge to repair the generator left behind at their old shelter. As he considered this discovery, the television inside the store flickered to life on its own. Static filled the screen. He jumped in surprise. Then she appeared, the artificial intelligence simulation administrator. At first he simply stared, confused. It took him several seconds to remember the truth. He was living inside a simulation. A dream. He had almost forgotten. The AI calmly informed him that the simulation would end in 1 week. He needed to prepare to return. The thought struck him like a blow. Returning to his old life had not crossed his mind in a long time. The scene shifted briefly to Sabrina. She wrote him a note explaining that they needed time apart. She was leaving, going somewhere else, and he was not to follow her. Then she walked away. Back in the store, the television lay shattered on the floor. He gathered the generator manual and other supplies, preparing to leave. That was when he heard the sound of paws. The wolves had followed his trail. He felt no fear. He understood their anger. After all, he had killed members of their pack. He tried to reach his weapon, but they were faster, blocking him. He was struck by their intelligence. Then he noticed the exit door standing open to his left. It was his only chance. He ran. The wolves chased him through the snow. His car was only a few meters away. He pushed himself forward, but the old injury in his leg, the one he had suffered when he fell into the river, flared up violently. His strength faltered. That was all the wolves needed. They tackled him into the snow. The larger wolf clamped its jaws onto his head, while the smaller one bit into his leg. Agony shot through him. Desperate, he unbuttoned his deerskin coat, slipping free from the larger wolf's grip. He punched the smaller wolf and quickly pulled out his knife, stabbing it. The larger wolf lunged again, tearing a chunk from his back. He drove his blade into its eye, but the knife snapped. The situation worsened. The beast lunged once more, fury blazing in its movements. He blocked it with his legs and shoved it away before it could bite his face. Advancing with the broken knife, he struck the wolf's remaining eye. The animal let out a horrific scream and slashed at his face with its claws. Consumed by rage, he raised the knife's hilt and brought it down repeatedly onto the wolf's skull. Blow after blow fell in a frenzy until his shoulder dislocated with a sickening shift. The hilt slipped from his grasp into the snow. The wolf lay motionless. He grabbed his bag and tried to flee. But the fight was not over. A memory flashed in his mind. He had once asked the AI whether the simulated world would continue after he left. Would Sabrina remain here alone? He had told the AI he could not abandon her. He wanted to stay. Back in the present, the battered wolf stirred. With its last strength it bit down on his hand. He stood there, staring at it. He admired its willpower. But he could not allow it revenge. He had to protect Sabrina, no matter what. He tore his arm free, skin ripping. He reached the car, threw the generator repair equipment inside, and opened the door. Suddenly, unbearable pain shot through him again. Both wolves had latched onto his legs. These creatures were relentless. He could not die. Not now. He opened the trunk. A pistol fell out. It was Sabrina's weapon. Without hesitation, he fired at the wolves. The shots forced them to retreat into the snow. He slammed the car door shut, shaking violently from adrenaline and blood loss. He had to fix the generator. If he did, Sabrina might survive after he left. He tried to start the car. Nothing happened. He tried again. Still nothing. The oil had frozen in the brutal cold. He needed time to warm the engine, but time was something he did not have. He was growing weaker. Outside, the wolves still lurked. His vision blurred. Consciousness slipped away. Then he woke up. He was safe. Sabrina sat beside him. She explained that she had found him unconscious next to the broken car and brought him home. He said he thought he had died. She admitted she had thought the same when she first saw him. He asked whether she had seen anything near him when she found him. She said he had been clutching a bag, which she had brought back. The moment he remembered the bag, he tried to sit up. With the contents inside, he could repair the generator. She told him he was badly injured and needed rest. He refused. This was the final task on his list. She sighed and agreed, already knowing he would not listen to her anyway. He said nothing. The story continues with Howard in the garage, struggling through pain as he repairs the diesel generator. His hands tremble, his vision swims, but he refuses to stop. Then, with a final adjustment, the machine roars to life. Electricity surges back into the house. For a second, he simply stands there in disbelief. After everything he endured, it worked. He almost cries. He shouts toward the house, asking Sabrina if she sees it. From inside, she calls him an idiot, though her voice carries relief. Still riding the wave of triumph, Howard walks back toward the house. That is when he notices the car Sabrina used to rescue him. The airbag has deployed. The front is crushed inward. There is dried blood smeared across the bumper. He moves closer and finds a wolf's canine tooth embedded in one of the tires. The truth becomes clear. He had exhausted the wolves in battle, but Sabrina had finished what he started. The realization overwhelms him. As he imagines the scene, he nearly blacks out again. His injuries are deep. Without proper medical treatment, he knows he may not survive. Examining the damage further, he concludes the dented bumper likely came from crashing into a tree. A brief flash of memory forms in his mind, Sabrina driving forward without hesitation, slamming the last wolf against a pole with ruthless precision. For the first time, he fully acknowledges what she has done for him. Inside the mansion, 2 wolf skins hang to dry. In the kitchen, Sabrina calmly cuts meat as though nothing extraordinary has happened. Howard approaches her from behind and wraps his arms around her, thanking her for saving him. She teases him, asking when he became so sentimental. Was he not the cold, detached man who needed no one? He brushes off the comment and asks her forgiveness instead. She changes the subject and asks whether he has ever tasted wolf meat. He says no. She smiles and tells him they will tonight. He tells her to cook plenty. There is work to be done. Day 178. Only 2 days remain until the end of the apocalypse. The city is frozen solid, buried under snow and ice. But for the first time in days, the sun rises. Sabrina stands by the bedroom window, watching the light spill over the white landscape. She tells Howard, who lies in bed, but he does not respond. Concerned, she asks what is wrong. He looks exhausted beyond words. She asks if he has caught a cold and goes to fetch medicine. In a weak voice, he calls her back and tells her not to worry. It is not a cold. She stiffens, but tries to keep things light. He has survived moving houses during a storm, hunting in blizzards, repairing generators in freezing temperatures. Someone like him deserves recognition, she jokes. If they were still working at the company, she would nominate him Employee of the Quarter. He smiles faintly and calls her his boss and his lovely wife. She says she has not agreed to marry him yet and tells him to take the medicine. He reaches for the glass, but his vision darkens. The ceiling above him turns black. The glass slips from his fingers and shatters on the floor. When he opens his eyes again, Sabrina stands before him in her underwear, waiting. She accuses him of pretending to be sick just to make her worry. This time she will not punish him, she says, but next time she cannot promise mercy. She tries to pull him back into playfulness. He ends it immediately. They need to talk. She is stunned. She cannot believe he would refuse her. She shakes him, demands he respond. When he does, his voice is fragile. He tells her he does not have much time. He knows he is dying. The words hang in the air. He explains that the gas supply will last about 3 months. When it runs out, she must head north. There is a large reserve there. He has labeled all the vegetable seeds, she only needs to plant them. He asks if she knows how to operate the diesel generator. When she chooses a new house, he tells her, she must prioritize insulation and protection from the cold, not beauty. Day 180. The final day. Howard sits in a wheelchair on the mansion balcony, weak and frail. Sabrina stands beside him. The air feels warmer today, she says. Soon, temperatures will rise above 0. When the snow melts, she will head north and look for survivors. He asks her quietly whether she ever loved him. She looks at him with an expression that suggests her answer will hurt. Then she says no. He smiles. If she never loved him, then he can leave without guilt. It is time to wake up from the dream. He closes his eyes. Sabrina continues speaking, her voice trembling. He is selfish, she says. Full of himself. He never considered her feelings. Why would she love someone like that? He never comforted her when she was sad. He carried everything alone. She breaks down completely, crying over his body, calling him an idiot. But he can no longer hear her. His consciousness is gone. Howard awakens on the other side of a glowing portal. The artificial intelligence waits there, congratulating him on completing the challenge. He feels disoriented, as if he has lived through countless experiences. Gradually, his old personality returns. He is once again the awkward man from before. The AI explains that his memories of the simulation are blurred on purpose. The system interferes so players do not confuse dreams with reality. Within a month, the memories will slowly return. When his heart finds peace, accepting the experience will become easier. He remembers only one thing clearly, that he must not forget something important. The thought alone makes him cry. He asks whether the dream world will continue to exist. The AI tells him it was only a game. It is over. No matter how vivid the memories feel, it was just a simulation. He has a real life to live. He nods. The AI begins calculating his score. On the portal screen, the results appear. Difficulty level, 0. Grade, B. Credits earned, 50. He is shocked. He nearly died in a 0 difficulty game. He asks how the evaluation works. The AI explains that his score depends on the survival probability of the person he leaves behind. If he had been the sole survivor, he would have received a D. By killing the wolves and restoring electricity, he increased Sabrina's chances and earned a higher grade. If he had secured abundant food, built communication equipment, or created systems for long-term sustainability, he could have achieved an S. He protests that he is just an ordinary man, not a professional survival expert. The AI responds that the purpose of the game is to provide experiences impossible in real life. This was only a tutorial. The real challenge begins in a month. She gestures toward another portal labeled Frankenstein Invasion. A grotesque alien figure looms within, accompanied by a countdown. The same survival criteria will apply. The ultimate goal, she explains, is to strengthen players' sense of justice and responsibility in real life. Humanity shares a common destiny. Howard says he needs time to decide whether he will continue. Even with blurred memories, he feels exhausted and disturbed. The AI quickly reminds him that it was not all suffering. There were happy moments as well. She projects scenes of intimacy between him and Sabrina inside the simulation. He is horrified, demanding privacy. The AI calmly states, she is an emotionless program. Nothing more. He asks whether the real Sabrina could remember any of it. The AI assures him she cannot. What happens in the virtual world stays there. At that very moment, in the real world, the real Sabrina wakes up with tears streaming down her face. Howard stares at the portal and says something is wrong with this game. This cannot be a normal company. He only wants to go home. The AI tells Howard that if he wants to access the system menu, all he has to do is rub his left eye. However, since he successfully completed the challenge, he is entitled to a reward. Howard immediately tells her to send whatever the reward is to his home address. She ignores him. Instead, she raises her staff, and a dark mist begins to coil around them. It thickens until he can barely see. Alarmed, he demands to know what is happening. She calmly assures him that the system is simply selecting the most appropriate reward. He stands there, swallowed by the mist, confused and tense. Then, suddenly, a pair of glowing eyes appears behind him. In an instant, memories flood back with brutal clarity. The wolves. The snow. The smell of blood. You. The pain of teeth tearing into flesh. The battle replays in his mind more vividly than ever before. Out of the darkness, a caveman steps forward, primitive and silent, gripping a spear. With a powerful motion, the man hurls it. The spear flies cleanly through the air and strikes the wolf dead. The mist clears. Reward acquired. Hunting skill, precise throw. Howard does not understand how it works. He is about to question the AI when a sharp sound pierces the air. An alarm clock. God. His phone. He jolts awake. After spending 6 months surviving in a virtual post-apocalyptic nightmare, he is back in his bed, staring at the ceiling, and late for work. For a long moment he lies there, trying to process it. The system must have forced him out because he never chose to exit the game manually. He rubs his left eye, attempting to reopen the system interface. Nothing happens. Now, he is even more unsettled. Is he truly awake? Or is this another layer of illusion? Meanwhile, inside the virtual world, the AI is in disarray. She demands to know why the player was suddenly ejected. Alert. System failure. Memory control function deactivated. She asks for the error code. Error code zone. Loading new information. Within the simulated world, Sabrina is dreaming. A dream inside the dream. The AI grows frantic. How can there be a secondary consciousness forming within the simulation? She orders the system to fix the glitch. The robotic assistant replies that no correction protocol exists in the database. Is she being asked to write new code herself? She is only a management program. That exceeds her capabilities. The scene shifts. In the real world, Sabrina awakens with tears streaming down her face. 2 women stand beside her bed. The older one asks if she is all right. Sabrina says she had a very long dream, but she cannot remember the details. It felt important. Real. Why? She then asks why they are in her room. The women exchange uneasy glances. One explains that the previous night Sabrina had been sleepwalking. She went to the kitchen, took a knife, and kept murmuring, I'm sorry. Sabrina's expression changes. She recognizes it. The servant had been frightened and called her secretary. The secretary gently suggests that Sabrina take a few days off before returning to work. Still crying, Sabrina whispers that it was not just a dream. It was more than that. It felt too real. Elsewhere in the bustling city, Howard walks through crowds of honking cars, sirens, and pollution. The normal world feels alien after months of silence and snow. Someone bumps into him and tells him to watch where he is going. He apologizes automatically. He has forgotten how chaotic life can be. He stops at the kiosk where he used to eat before work. The cook greets him and asks how he has been. Howard replies that he is fine, or at least he thinks he is. The cook mentions that a relative is searching for a suitable partner for his daughter, a remarkable young woman. He offers to introduce her. Howard barely listens. Instead, he instinctively moves closer to the kiosk fire, warming his hands. The cook asks if everything is all right. Howard says he just feels cold. When asked again about the introduction, Howard casually says he already has a girlfriend. Then he pauses. A girlfriend? The memories feel real. The emotions feel real. But it was just a game. A simulation. It is over. He reaches the company building at 7:50 a.m., nearly late. It feels as though centuries have passed since he last stepped inside. A hand lands on his shoulder. It is Donald, his co-worker and only real friend at the office. Howard says it has been a long time since they last saw each other. Donald looks confused. They were together at the company dinner the previous night. Howard brushes it off, claiming he was distracted. Donald warns him that layoffs may be coming. Rumors say their department will be hit, and since Howard and their boss have never gotten along, he might be first. Howard shrugs. He says he might quit anyway. The world is vast. Why live under someone else's rules? He could go to the beach, sell art, live freely. Donald stares at him. Something is different. In school and at work, Howard used to complain constantly, desperate for recognition. Now he sounds calm. Certain. When Howard reaches his desk, he feels lost. He cannot even remember what tasks he was working on. He writes down a few client names, but his thoughts are scattered. If he plans to quit, why is he pretending to work? Frustrated, he crumples the paper and tosses it backward into the trash can without looking. It lands perfectly. He freezes. He grabs another sheet of paper and steps farther away. He focuses. Suddenly, everything around him fades. There is only him and the target. He senses the exact angle, distance, and force required. He throws. Another perfect shot. A realization dawns on him. The reward. The precise throw skill. His body adjusts instinctively. The ability works here, in the real world. To test it further, he aims at a trash can even farther away. He throws. The paper ball flies beautifully through the air and hits his boss square in the face. The office falls silent. The boss, maintaining forced composure, tells Howard to come to his office. Whispers erupt instantly. Colleagues speculate that he is about to be fired. Some seem almost pleased. One claims to have heard he is in debt. Vultures circling. Donald watches nervously. Inside the office, the boss asks Howard to sit. He pours tea and says he should not have underestimated him. Howard does not understand. The boss continues. Over the past 2 years, Howard has worked hard and taken on many tasks. Today's incident was minor. If he leaves, he will still receive his final month's salary. Then, unexpectedly, the boss steps forward and hugs him. He thanks Howard for teaching him so much during these 2 years. Howard is completely bewildered. The boss explains that the company is creating a new department led by a certain Mr. Liu. Mr. Liu personally requested Howard for the team. Now it becomes clear why the boss is suddenly so flattering. Howard insists he does not know any Mr. Liu. The boss laughs nervously and says that someone as capable as Howard must have impressed important people. He claims he always knew Howard had great potential, which is why he gave him more responsibilities than others. Of course. Howard listens silently, aware that something far larger than coincidence may be unfolding around him. Howard tells his boss that he had actually been considering quitting. The boss smiles immediately and says this is precisely why he should reconsider. A great opportunity has just arrived. Rumor has it that the average salary in the new department will be 20% higher. The scene shifts. Howard is already telling Donald about the promotion. He admits that he had no concrete plan if he quit. Maybe staying a little longer is wiser. Their conversation is interrupted by a coworker, the same man who used to flatter the boss endlessly. Bitter, he asks what Howard did to deserve this opportunity. At the company dinner, he says, Howard could barely keep his eyes off Sabrina's cleavage. Meanwhile, he himself has been sucking up for years and gained nothing. Before Howard can respond, the boss appears, coughs sharply, and tells the man to shut up. Standing beside him is Mr. Lu. The boss apologizes for the scene and invites Howard to his office. Mr. Lau's presence shifts the entire atmosphere. He says he cannot ignore the negativity in the department. He asks the disgruntled employee whether he doubts his ability to choose capable staff. The man immediately backtracks. The boss seizes the moment. He scolds the troublemaker harshly, saying he has always been reckless and hasty. The position of team leader, he declares, should go to someone more suitable. He turns to Donald and asks whether he would like the role. Donald says yes without hesitation. Finally, the boss tells Howard he does not need to work today. He should pack up and prepare for the new department. Howard nods, fully aware that this sudden kindness exists only because Mr. Lu is watching. Before leaving, Mr. Lu informs Howard that there will be a gathering for the new department after office hours. It will be held at his mansion. They will discuss future plans and give everyone a chance to socialize. He then addresses the entire office, announcing that rumors about layoffs are false. No one will lose their job. Everyone can relax and return to work. Howard watches Mr. Lu carefully. They have never met before. Why this sudden interest? As Mr. Lu walks away, he glances back at Howard and privately wonders why Sabrina asked him to arrange this transfer. From his perspective, Howard looks like an ordinary employee. Later, Howard speaks with his parents on the phone. His mother asks whether he will come home for the spring festival. It has been 2 years since his last visit. He asks about his father's health. She says everything is fine and tells him to take care of himself. He mentions his promotion and promises that soon they will be able to pay off the family's debt. His mother apologizes for burdening him. He reassures her that things will improve. After the call, a coworker contacts him. She introduces herself as Sandy Dai, the marketing department's team leader. She saw his photo on the payroll and wanted to greet him. She asks whether he will attend the gathering. The location catches him off guard. The mansion, the same mansion from the apocalypse simulation. Sandy explains that Mr. Lu enjoys hosting parties at his home and suggests they go together. Howard agrees, struck by the unsettling overlap between dream and reality. She warns him that Mr. Lu is obsessed with cleanliness. He should be careful. Howard flashes back to returning home covered in blood and mud after hunting, staining the floors. She advises him not to use the bathroom casually. He remembers being scolded for leaving the toilet seat up. She adds that he must not wander into private rooms, especially the bedroom. He remembers far too clearly. Suddenly, screams cut through the street. Someone shouts that a thief has stolen a purse. Howard reacts instantly. He grabs Sandy's bag. She protests. It contains important files. The thief is too far. Howard focuses. The thief leaps toward a fence, using one leg to push off. Howard throws. The bag arcs through the air with perfect precision, striking the thief's supporting leg. The man collapses face first. Moments later, the thief is in handcuffs. Howard gathers Sandy's scattered documents. He worries she might be upset about the risk. Instead, she is impressed. She cannot believe he made that throw from such distance, and even asks him to teach her. As they collect the papers, Howard notices a business card. Weil Capital. Sandy confirms it is important. The owner, Mr. Lawrence, leads one of the world's top 100 companies. The name stirs something in him. Sandy casually mentions that there are rumors Mrs. Luo is dating Mr. Lawrence and that they may go on a cruise together. Howard stiffens. In the dream, Sabrina had mentioned to Howard. Now, here in reality, Mr. Lawrence is the man connected to her. He tells himself to stop overthinking. It was only a game. They arrive at the mansion. The gathering will be held in the backyard. Sandy begins giving directions, but Howard walks ahead confidently. He knows this place intimately, though he has never been here before in real life. They reach the party easily. Sandy laughs, saying he found the location as if it were his own home. He does not respond. His attention locks onto one person. Sabrina. She stands across the garden in an elegant dress, radiant and distant. Mr. Price. Lu welcomes everyone and begins discussing expansion plans, online business models, corporate strategies. The conversation blends into background noise. Howard asks whether Mrs. Luo works in marketing. Sandy explains that the department was established under her leadership. She is not just an executive, Her father is the company's president. Her influence surpasses even Mr. Liu's. Howard pretends to be impressed and asks about Mr. Liu himself. Sandy says he and Sabrina grew up together. They were close since childhood. Many believed they would eventually marry. Howard asks how she ended up with Mr. Lawrence instead. Sandy shrugs. The wealthy live differently. She would not mind that lifestyle herself. Howard forces a polite smile, thinking about his family's massive debt. Nearly $1 million. He and Sabrina exist in completely different worlds. Time passes. The meeting ends. Music begins. Sandy, slightly tipsy from wine, leans closer to Howard and comments on how refined the atmosphere is. Mr. Rent. Liu invites Sabrina to dance, recalling that they last danced as teenagers. She accepts. Howard watches, a flicker of jealousy crossing his face. A waiter offers expensive steak. One. Sandy remarks that one plate probably costs her entire monthly salary. Howard questions how meat can be so expensive. She laughs and calls him a country bumpkin, telling him to forget poverty for one night. He raises his glass, but as he does, he remembers something from the simulation, the fake wine in the mansion cellar. He had saved it for a special moment. Sabrina had said the sweetness mattered more than authenticity. Now, in reality, she watches him drink the same brand of wine beside another woman. Whispers ripple through the party. People gossip about Sabrina and Mr. Liu being destined for each other since childhood. Through school, through youth, always side by side. A match made in heaven. Howard stands quietly, caught between two worlds, unsure which one was ever truly real. Howard convinces himself that Mr. Liu seems reliable. If Sabrina marries a man like that, she will likely live a comfortable, stable life. Perhaps that is what is best for her. Perhaps that is what is best for everyone. Lost in those thoughts, he absent-mindedly places his hands over the steam rising from the freshly served meat. It takes him a second to realize his skin is burning. He jerks back in pain. Sandy scolds him, calling him an idiot since the waiter had just placed the dish there. She quickly takes his hand and runs it under cool water, genuinely worried. He thanks her, embarrassed. But from across the party, the scene looks intimate. People begin whispering. Even Sabrina watches with a faintly troubled expression. Before Mr. Liu can comment, 3 men suddenly arrive. The one in the center announces that he heard Sabrina would be joining the marketing department and came to congratulate her. He had not expected to see a party. Nor did he expect to see Mr. Lawrence's fiancée dancing with another man. Howard quietly asks who he is. Sandy explains that his name is Hans, a general manager at Ayla Capital, and one of Mr. Lawrence's trusted aides. In other words, a powerful subordinate. Mr. Liu calmly says it is just a dance. There is no need to overreact. Sabrina politely thanks Hans for coming, but explains that this is an internal company event. If he wishes to discuss business, he can visit her office tomorrow. Hans barely listens. His gaze lingers disrespectfully. He suggests that since he is also a good dancer, perhaps Sabrina would care to dance with him instead. Mr. Liu steps in with polished politeness, reminding him that he and Sabrina are old friends, and that such a request is inappropriate. Hans brushes it off, insisting it is harmless. Sabrina lightly touches Mr. Liu's shoulder and says Hans is an important partner. They should remain cordial. She reluctantly shakes his hand. Hans grows bolder. He announces that from now on, he will personally escort her whenever she visits Mr. Lawrence. He pulls her closer. She stiffens and tells him firmly to stop. Sandy whispers that Mr. Liu must be furious, but the partnership with Lawrence's company is too important. There are limits to what he can do. Howard watches in silence, anger building. His wine glass trembles in his hand. As they dance, Hans' hand drifts slower. Sabrina grabs his arm and tells him the dance is over. His smile hardens. In a sudden move, he steps on her dress and pushes her backward. The fabric begins to tear. For a split second, chaos hangs in the air. Howard moves. A sizzling piece of meat suddenly flies through the crowd and smashes into Hans' face. He screams, clutching his eyes. The grip on Sabrina's dress loosens. The music stops. Guests stand in shock. Hans orders his men to find whoever threw it. One approaches Howard's table, but Sandy has already thought ahead. She quietly removes half her portion of meat, leaving no obvious evidence. The search turns up nothing. Before Hans can escalate further, a sharp sound echoes. Sabrina slaps him. The force knocks him to the ground. She tells him to gather his men and leave immediately. Her patience was courtesy, not permission. Mr. Bentonmaya. Lo's friend adds that if he refuses, they will call the police. Hans looks ready to retaliate, but one of his men whispers urgently in his ear. His demeanor shifts. He mutters that there has been a misunderstanding and leaves. The party slowly resumes, though the mood has changed. Later, Sandy begins drinking heavily. Howard suggests she slow down, but she insists he join her. They make a lighthearted deal. For every 3 glasses she drinks, he drinks 1. It does not take long for her to become completely intoxicated. She eventually climbs onto the table, laughing and babbling nonsense. When she stumbles, Howard catches her before she falls. The scene draws attention, but he ignores it. When the restaurant announces closing time and presents the bill, Howard nearly chokes at the cost. Outside, Sandy is far too drunk to go home alone. He decides to take her to his apartment so she can sober up safely. She teases him weakly but can barely stand. A shadowed figure watches them from afar. At home, Howard places her gently on the bed and tells her to sleep. He refuses to take advantage of her condition. After covering her with a blanket, he settles onto the couch. Around 2 a.m, he hears the front door open. He sits up instantly. A strange man stands in the room, staring at Sandy as she sleeps. His expression is unsettling. He murmurs that she is wonderful. Howard demands to know who he is and how he entered. The man tells him to be quiet. He speaks as if negotiating a transaction, suggesting that since Howard already had his fun, he should allow him the same. The implication is vile. Rage overtakes Howard. He grabs the man by the collar and orders him out. The intruder twists free and throws Howard to the floor with surprising strength. The man continues speaking in a twisted attempt at persuasion, as if this were some kind of bargain. He even claims he believes Sandy was an escort, and that he misunderstood the situation. Howard's anger sharpens into clarity. He reaches for his phone to call the police. The man panics, trying to stop him, insisting there has been a misunderstanding. But Howard no longer listens. Whatever strange abilities he gained from the game, whatever confusion still lingers between dream and reality, one thing is clear. This is real, and he will not allow it to continue. In this episode we see, Howard immediately questions the absurd excuse. He demands to know why the man had been lurking outside his door and spying on his apartment. The stranger calmly explains that the apartment used to belong to him 20 years ago. He claims he returned to retrieve something he had hidden there long ago. Walking to a corner of the room, he pries up a loose floorboard. Beneath it, there really is a box. When he opens it, the contents glimmer: rings, jewelry, gold chains. He explains that decades ago the apartment had been filled with prostitutes, and he had taken great risks to collect those valuables. Howard is not impressed. He says it does not matter what kind of shady life the man lived in the past, especially after he just tried to assault Sandy. The man brushes it off as a misunderstanding and insists he caused her no real harm. He admits he is not a good person, but claims he is not some brute who bullies others. He says he follows his own rules. As he prepares to leave, he tells Howard to help his friend get dressed. Howard refuses to let it go. He says he still thinks it is better to call the police. That is when the man's patience begins to thin. He asks whether Howard truly believes he can stop him. He coldly suggests that the woman could just as easily claim that Howard was the one who tried to assault her. Then he hands Howard a small box and tells him to forget the entire incident. Howard asks if he is trying to bribe him. The man shrugs and says it is just an iron ring, not worth much money but unique. He then shares something strange. Ever since he obtained that ring, he has dreamed repeatedly of the same woman. A woman wearing a red coat, holding a golden scepter, her eyes glowing with blue light. Howard's heart skips a beat. The description perfectly matches the AI woman from his dream. The stranger continues, saying he could not understand a word she spoke. He found her attractive, and even tried flirting with her, but she rejected him and beat him up. With a dismissive laugh, he says Howard can do whatever he wants with the ring, maybe even sell it to someone who enjoys getting beaten. Howard insists that this is bribery and tells him to wait, but the man no longer cares. He simply walks away. Alone, Howard stares at the box. Could it be connected to the dream world? When he opens it, He sees an iron ring set with a red gem emitting a faint, strange glow. Suddenly, his left eye activates again. A familiar visual interface overlays his vision, and a hologram forms in front of him. It is a woman claiming to be one of the developers of the Dream system. She explains that under immense pressure, this was the only way she could leave a message. She hopes it will help the target of the tests, him. She warns that he has fallen into a trap. The Dream system blurs the boundaries between social class, law, and morality. While inside it, users barely notice their mindset shifting. But when they return to reality, the stark gap between dream and real life can unleash greed, violence, and dark impulses from within. According to her, some developers enjoy toying with people's lives. She tried to persuade them to improve the system, but failed. She urges Howard to remain alert to his own changes, to resist giving in to his impulses. She reveals that she left communication devices hidden within each dream challenge, tools that can help him break free from the system and all its consequences. Finally, she tells him to find her. Then the hologram disappears. Howard steadies himself. He convinces himself that as long as he feels normal, he will not commit any crimes. He believes he is still in control. Yet he cannot ignore the strange fact that the man saw that same AI woman 2 decades ago. What is the true significance of the ring? His thoughts are interrupted by the alarm clock. It is already 7 in the morning. Time for work. Sandy wakes as well. The moment she realizes she is not wearing panties, she screams at the top of her lungs. Just like that, the day begins. Now in the eyes of the world, Howard and Sandy are a couple. The street vendor even teases him, saying it is no wonder he refused help finding a girl. He already had someone special. He calls them a cute pair and gives them free breakfast. Sandy beams when she learns Howard once had a crush on her. Howard, meanwhile, can only wonder how his life spiraled into this situation. At the office, gossip spreads like wildfire. People whisper that the former team leader had pursued Sandy, only to be rejected because she chose Howard instead. That same team leader is furious. Not only did Howard secure the promotion he wanted, but he also won over the woman he admired. Despite everything, Howard and Sandy act like a genuine couple. She even suggests they go to the movies that night. Howard panics internally. He barely has enough money for daily expenses. He might have to borrow from Donald just to afford cinema tickets. Then Sandy casually mentions they should stop by a pharmacy for the morning after pill. At that exact moment, Sabrina appears. She greets them calmly and comments on how quickly their relationship has progressed. Sandy apologizes for her behavior at the social event, admitting she feels embarrassed. Sabrina lightly hints that she thought Howard would take things slow, yet he surprised her. Howard remains silent, deeply uncomfortable. Sandy laughs, saying she also believed he was reserved until last night proved otherwise. Howard begs her not to go into detail, but the damage is done. Inside, Sabrina feels emotions she cannot name. On the outside, she simply says she is happy for them and hopes they maintain professionalism at work. Then she steps off the elevator, leaving behind a heavy silence. Sandy criticizes Sabrina, pointing out her own complicated romantic entanglements. Howard, however, insists they should focus on work while at the office. Sandy becomes upset. She says she is his wife now, and he should support her unconditionally, unless their relationship was merely a fling, and he never intended to build a family. The word, family, strikes Howard's weakest point. His resolve softens instantly. He agrees that their relationship should come first. She hugs him tightly and teasingly calls him, puppy, then tells him she will wait downstairs after work. Meanwhile, Mr. Galladay. Lou notices Sabrina pushing herself too hard. She claims she is simply busy in the new department, but he knows her too well. He gently confronts her and asks if her anxiety is because of Howard. She denies it. Just then Howard arrives with a completed list. Mr. Lou requested. Mr. Lou praises his concise work, but Howard is distracted. He is standing in front of Sabrina. Both feel the weight of unspoken words between them, yet an invisible barrier keeps them apart. Mr. Lou notices Howard staring downward. Howard quickly claims he was looking at the plant in the vase. When he looks closer, his heart pounds. It is a tomato plant. Sabrina's pulse quickens as well. In the post-apocalyptic dream world, she's to grow tomatoes. He remembers the day they survived on a single tomato and a cabbage leaf. He will never forget. Sabrina asks if he recognizes the plant from somewhere. He wants to tell her everything, the memories, the feelings, the snowy day, her smile. But then doubt floods in. The boss's warning about overreaching. The Ai's reminder that it was only a game. Sandy waiting for him. The claim that he must not be manipulated by impulse. When he finally speaks, he says he once saw a tomato plant in his hometown. Even Mr. Liu expected some grand revelation. Howard deflects, insisting tomatoes hold no secrets. He then asks Sabrina why she has one in her office. She hesitates, then says she must have planted the wrong seeds and will replace it tomorrow. The moment passes. Howard feels a quiet sting of disappointment. Later, in the restroom, he splashes water on his face. He tells himself he narrowly avoided crossing a line. The real Sabrina is not the dream version. Yet he cannot stop thinking about her. In her office, Sabrina exhales in relief. She is grateful she maintained her composure. Otherwise, it would have been painfully obvious. Howard reminds himself that the developer was right. He was close to falling into the trap. In the dream world, he grew accustomed to violence, to wielding weapons. If he continued down that path, what kind of person would he become? He is just a humble employee. She's the company president's daughter. Nothing will happen between them. Sabrina sits alone and reflects on how real the dream had felt. For 180 days, she and that man had lived side by side, surviving hardship after hardship. They had shared fear, hunger, hope. Yet now it was over. At the exact same time, in different places, both of them reached the same conclusion. The dream has ended. From this moment on, they will no longer be involved in each other's lives. When the workday ends, Howard sends a message to his friend Donald. He explains that he is going out with his wife and needs a little help. Donald, ever the reliable friend, transfers money through a mobile payment app and even offers his credit card if more is needed. Howard thanks him and promises to repay everything after his salary arrives. He heads to meet Sandy, only to find her speaking with that sycophantic former team leader. The man claims he is worried she might be deceived. Sandy snaps that she does not need his advice. Howard steps in immediately and asks whether the man tried to hurt her. She says no. The sycophant smirks and says that, unlike certain hypocrites, he is honest and harmless. He claims he was simply warning her to stay away from insincere people. Having said his piece, he leaves. Howard tells Sandy that the man has always been unpleasant and suggests they ignore him. Then he gently asks if she still wants to see that movie. Sandy lets go of his hand, steps aside, and calmly says she wants to break up. She repeats it more clearly the second time. Howard remains silent. She explains that, truthfully, they barely know each other. Then she asks how much debt his family owes. He takes a deep breath and answers, 200,000. She is stunned. For an office worker earning only a few thousand a month, that amount feels crushing. She tells him to leave her out of it. She is not wealthy, nor as capable as he imagines. Deep down, she admits he was never truly interested in her. She only hated how Sabrina attracted the attention of all the decent men. One thing led to another, and last night happened. But she does not deserve him. She asks him to forget it and walks away. And just like that, in a single day, Howard loses 2 women. When he returns home, he reflects that this is not the first time he has been abandoned because of his family's debt. In college, his first love left him for the same reason. That debt has cast a shadow over his entire household. He can barely meet his parents' eyes anymore. He has considered starting a business, but no idea has ever truly excited him. He tells himself he cannot go on like this. Something must change. As he reaches his apartment, he notices the stove is on. He wonders if he left something cooking. But when he steps inside, he finds the strange ex-convict sitting casually on his sofa. The man greets him with a simple hello. Howard explodes. He calls him a scoundrel and demands to know what he is doing there. He shouts that the man tried to assault his colleague and now is using his cooking pot as if this were his own home. The man replies that he has nowhere else to go. He says he was beaten while trying to find a job and asks if Howard could show a little mercy and let him stay for a few days. Howard kicks him out and warns that next time he will call the police. Left alone, he mutters that this is the worst day of his life. Then he smells the food the man was cooking. Curious, he lifts the lid. The dish looks questionable, almost poisonous. He cannot even call it food. Some time passes. Then Howard opens the door again with a strange expression and invites the man back inside. He admits that, despite appearances, the food tastes incredible. He even asks if the man used to be a Michelin chef. The man says he knows a bit about cooking. Howard praises him and says he could find work at any restaurant. He asks why he was beaten up. The answer is simple. He is an ex-convict. He cannot use a smartphone. He does not know how to write a resume. He only wants a peaceful life, but society makes it nearly impossible. Howard proposes something bold. What if they open a restaurant together? The man hesitates and says that if Howard does not mind his criminal record, they can discuss it. Howard says he will not pry into the past. He will find a place for them to start fresh. The man warns him that background checks scare people away. Is Howard certain he has the courage to work alongside someone like him? Howard admits he is tired of feeling like a sewer rat whenever his family's debt comes up. If a man wants meat, he must face the wolf. If the wolf wants meat, it cannot attack the man blindly. He looks the ex-convict in the eye and says he is willing to take the risk, if it is worth it. He reaches out not to shake hands, but to ask for the hidden jewels so they can sell them and rent a shop. The man awkwardly confesses that he already spent everything on prostitutes, cigarettes, and liquor. The restaurant dream collapses before it even begins. Then Howard's phone rings. It is Sandy. She says she feels guilty for what she said and does not want him to think she is a gold digger. He tells her to skip the preamble. She says she found a way to make quick money and asks if he is interested. Without hesitation, he says yes. Elsewhere, Mr. Liu speaks with Sabrina. He praises Howard as an excellent employee who completed a week's workload in a single day. He admits he wrongly suspected her of having an affair with Howard, when in fact she simply has a good eye for talent. Sabrina finds it ironic that he mentions affairs, given his own questionable behavior. She reminds him to replace his secretary. At that moment, the secretary appears to inform him that the driver is waiting. Sabrina's memories flash back to the day her father forced her to witness that same woman in a compromising act. She coldly calls Mr. Liu an idiot. He reminds her they agreed not to discuss each other's private lives. Meanwhile, Howard is already regretting agreeing to Sandy's proposal. The offer is simple. Sandy and two friends run live streams on a purple site, performing bizarre, attention-grabbing stunts while wearing unusual outfits. Nothing explicit, just strange enough to draw crowds. They already have 200,000 followers. If Howard participates, he gets half the earnings from the next stream. Desperation clouds his judgment. He agrees. The woman in green, nicknamed Flatty, questions why Sandy invited him when their usual content is more extreme. What is exciting about throwing darts? Sandy says experimenting never hurts. The woman in red, nicknamed Chubby, insists there is no gain without pain. People want thrills. Howard listens quietly and thinks, fine. Let us see. Later, he appears dressed in tight pants and a leather belt worn like a vest. The same man who once fought wolves now stands awkwardly in costume. The women approve but ask about the mask. Another answers that he is embarrassed and wants to hide his identity. Sandy reveals a last-minute twist. The darts will be thrown at a target connected to an electrified mesh covering the floor. If he misses the bullseye, he receives an electric shock. They demonstrate the voltage using raw meat. It sizzles and cooks almost instantly. The women seem delighted. Howard tells them to start. The live stream begins. Introductions are made. The challenge is announced. A new form of entertainment is about to unfold, one powered by desperation, spectacle, and a young man willing to endure pain to erase a debt that has haunted his entire life. Chubby steps forward and enthusiastically welcomes the brave shooter, Slanty. The comments begin flooding the screen. Some viewers express concern and pity. Others warn him to be careful. Many are thrilled. The hosts announce that he will have 10 darts to throw and urge the more than 50,000 viewers to like and subscribe to support the shooter. They joke that if the channel does not get enough engagement, they might have to wear ridiculous outfits themselves. Sandy glances at Howard with unease. They had just demonstrated the electric shock by roasting a piece of meat. She quietly moves to lower the current, but Chubby grabs her arm and demands to know if she has lost her mind. They cannot deceive their audience. They are not irresponsible creators who fake danger. Sandy argues that Howard could genuinely get hurt. Chubby fires back that people everywhere risk their lives to earn daily bread. No pain, no gain. Do their followers not work hard too? The chat erupts in cheers for Chubby's speech. She turns to Howard and tells him that since he insisted on participating, he must prove himself. If he thinks it will be easy just because it is online, he can leave now. Howard says nothing. He casually throws the first dart. Bullseye dot. He asks if that is enough. Chubby stares at the target in disbelief. She admits he is skilled but demands more excitement. Since Slanty appears confident, he will now throw from a greater distance. Sandy protests that it is dangerous, but Chubby silences her. Slanty himself has no objections. Howard steps back and throws again. Another perfect hit. Chubby praises him while he calmly continues. With each dart, he takes another step backward. The second, the third, the fourth, the fifth, all strike dead center. The viewer count skyrockets. Trending topics begin lighting up with his name. By the time he reaches the doorway, there is no more room to retreat. The chat explodes, calling him the Dart God. He releases the remaining darts in quick succession, all landing perfectly. Then he stops. Chubby asks why he quit before the 10 throws were complete. Howard replies that everyone expected him to miss and be shocked for entertainment. He refuses to degrade himself for that. If they want, they can count the darts he did not throw as misses. He does not understand the appeal of watching someone fail. He was not made for this. The show is over. This will be his first and last live stream. He says goodbye and walks out. The stream still has over 1.8 million viewers. Within seconds, the numbers plummet. The women stand frozen. Chubby eventually apologizes to the audience, admitting she pushed too far. The next morning, Howard wakes to Sandy's call. He has gone viral. Confused, he checks his phone. Memes of his masked figure flood the internet. Clips of his flawless throws circulate everywhere. He heads to the kitchen and finds Ty experimenting with strange dishes bearing even stranger names. Ty proudly calls it his favorite breakfast recipe. Howard wrinkles his nose and tells him both the dishes and their names are terrible. He reassures Ty that there is no need to rush. They are not opening a restaurant tomorrow. Ty had assumed they would start in a few days to make money. Howard admits he is still figuring things out. For now, Ty can stay. There is food and a roof here, better than the streets. At the company, the e-girls wait near the entrance, likely hoping he will agree to continue streaming. Howard avoids them, claiming he is late. Inside, a colleague tells him Mr. Liu wants to see him. Before leaving, Howard glances at the phone his co-workers are huddled around. They are watching a new internet sensation. It is him. The colleague excitedly says the guy hit 7 darts in a row, and is now known as Brother 7. Howard wants to disappear. In Mr. Liu's office, the atmosphere is oddly charged. Mr. Liu mentions that Howard and Sandy attended the live stream, yet Howard himself never appeared. Only this mysterious Brother 7. Mr. Liu describes Brother 7 as charming and even licks his lips while saying it. He asks whether Howard has his contact information because he wants to manage him. Howard denies knowing him and casually insults the outfit. Mr. Liu dismisses his sense of fashion. The comments online praise Brother 7's cool, indifferent aura. They call him dignified, a true Sigma. Mr. Liu insists that Howard must find a way to contact him. There is serious money to be made. Howard protests that this is beyond his job description. Mr. Liu counters with an offer. Secure Brother 7's contact, and he will receive a promotion, a salary raise, and access to influential circles. Howard accepts the mission. He needs the money. Later, the 2 e-girls wait anxiously. Howard had agreed to meet them but has not arrived. Then Sandy appears, bringing him along. The moment Chubby sees him, she grabs his tie and bursts into tears. She confesses that she never intended to humiliate herself online. She once made fitness videos but no one watched. So she began eating on camera until she gained weight. Then she escalated to more extreme stunts. It became the only way to pay her bills. What Howard said before leaving the stream struck her deeply. She once wanted to share wisdom. Now she is on the verge of opening an adult subscription account. She clasps her hands and pleads. She does not want to hurt anymore. She does not want to be laughed at. She wants to earn money with dignity. Howard shakes her hand and agrees to help. A month passes. A month passes. The system interface reappears, announcing that the next dream will begin tomorrow. Strangely, Howard feels no excitement. The game no longer thrills him. Nation. What excites him now is stepping onto a stage as Brother 7. On stage he asks if anyone is hungry. A fan shouts yes. Sandy appears with a small cake, feeding into the playful atmosphere. Suddenly the cake splatters against a fan's face. Brother 7 asks if it tastes good. The stunned man screams yes, and the crowd chants his name. Sabrina watches the spectacle with visible boredom, unable to comprehend why people adore this. Mr. Liu encourages her to observe the excitement. There is enormous profit to be made. Chubby announces the next gimmick. They will toss a red wedding cloak into the crowd, and whoever catches it becomes Brother 7's husband or wife. The audience roars. The cloak flies, and lands squarely on Sabrina's face. She freezes. Before she can react, chaos erupts as fans scramble. In the commotion, Mr. Liu emerges victorious, claiming the symbolic victory. After the event, they gather backstage. Mr. Liu complains that Howard Chen disappeared at the start, claiming he was going to the restroom. Who would have guessed there was a Peter Parker among them? Brother 7 calmly says everything is fine. Howard explained the situation. The thrown cloak was simply a greeting. Mr. Liu admits he understood, but Brother 7 states plainly that he is a Sigma. He does not want representation or corporate ties. If they want him to promote products, they must pay a very high price. Sabrina calls him unreasonable. Before the discussion can continue, another man arrives. One of Lawrence's henchmen. Smoking casually, he declares that Brother 7 chose the wrong company. Their firm offers better opportunities. Brother 7 responds that he will not work for them either. The man insists he should not refuse so quickly and offers 5 times Mr. Ali's price. Sabrina recognizes the tactic immediately. It is classic Lawrence. Brother 7 declines again. The reason, he says, has nothing to do with money. The henchman asks what it is then. Brother 7 shrugs and replies that it is nothing complicated. He simply hates him. The blunt answer leaves the man speechless. Mr. Liu and Sabrina struggle to contain their laughter. Brother 7 turns and walks away. Behind him, the furious henchman warns that he will regret this. Mr. Gun. Liu glances at Sabrina and teasingly asks whether she finds Brother 7 more likable now. Sabrina admits that, yes, he seems better than she first thought. That evening, Howard returns home and places a credit card on the table. Ty looks impressed, assuming Howard somehow saved an enormous amount of money in a short time. Howard explains that to secure the restaurant location, they will need to pay 3 months' rent in advance. It will require a significant sum. He pulls out a second card. This one, he explains quietly, is different. When he turned 1 year old, his parents deposited $100 into it. At 2, they added another 100. Year after year, despite the crushing family debt, they kept adding whatever they could. When he turned 18, they handed him the card and told him to go live his own life. No matter what happened, they would support him. The money on that card is not just savings. It represents years of sacrifice. He asks Ty if he is ready. Ty grows tense. After a long silence, he tells Howard they should give up on the plan. Howard is stunned. Ty says it is too late. He has already found another job. Howard's parents worked too hard for that money. He should not gamble it away. The scene shifts. The sycophantic former team leader is presenting evidence to Lawrence's henchmen. Photographs. Clear proof that Brother 7 is actually Howard Chen, the same man who humiliated them at their gathering. The photos were taken secretly. The slick-haired henchman studies them with narrowed eyes. He asks whether they still have contact with that brutal fighter friend who recently got out of prison. The answer is yes. The man was desperate and recently accepted money. He is available for tasks. The henchman smiles coldly. It is time to settle the score. The chapter ends. The next begins with water and blood. Howard, wearing a robe, sinks to the bottom of a swimming pool. Blood pours from his throat, staining the water around him. He wonders if this is how he dies. The world fades to white. 15 hours earlier, someone calls his name, waking him. It is Mr. Liu. Howard apologizes and explains that a woman knocked on his door earlier, looking for his new roommate. Mr. Liu questions why he is still living with a roommate. With his upcoming salary increase, he should move somewhere better, closer to the company. Howard hesitates. Does that mean he passed the test? Mr. Liu confirms it. Howard successfully arranged a meeting with Brother 7. Even though Brother 7 refused representation, watching him reject Lawrence's man was satisfying. Mr. Liu introduces Howard to the company driver Chip and the secretary Helen. They will be working closely from now on. Their next task is to meet an intelligent and powerful woman. They arrive at a luxurious resort. The woman in question is already there, accompanied by a small kitten. She dismisses Sabrina and Mr. Liu almost immediately. When Mr. Kimistyle encodes, Liu introduces Howard as his assistant. He extends his hand politely. She ignores it completely. Instead, she asks her kitten if it is sleepy. She remarks that she has little time for leisure, but refuses to discuss business. She wants to enjoy the hot spring. Then she leaves. Howard wonders if he did something wrong. Mr. Liu tells him to relax. It is merely a test of patience. The woman is Sharon Yang, CEO of Far East Limited. Her company controls the largest e-commerce platform in the country. If they secure her online channels, their products will boom nationwide. The problem is the price she demands. It is excessive. Howard suggests finding another partner. Mr. Liu explains they cannot. Sabrina made a bet with headquarters. If they fail to meet this month's profit target, she will lose everything. Howard remembers something from the dream world, Sabrina saying she wanted to prove her independence. Now he understands. If she fails, she will be forced into marriage with Lawrence as part of a business deal. When Lawrence's henchman arrives, he confirms it bluntly. Sabrina must marry Lawrence soon to accelerate cooperation. Her father has effectively sold her for the company's survival. Sabrina does not deny it. Her father has always manipulated her life. It suffocates her. The henchman mocks her mercilessly, saying she deserves it. He sneers that if she wants children, she may need a sperm bank. Howard's anger burns, but before he can act, his phone rings. It is one of the e-girls. Someone has hired haters to smear their channel, spreading rumors that they are a cult. Suing will only amplify the negativity. They need another solution. When Howard hangs up, he notices the henchman has been listening. The man smirks and calls him Brother 7. This is only the beginning. Hours later, Howard sits by the hotel pool, thoughts racing. Lawrence's men know his identity. The e-girls are under attack. Sabrina faces a forced marriage. He cannot wait for Mr. Lau's call. He decides to approach Sharon Yang again and attempt to salvage the deal. Footsteps approach. Tai appears. Howard frowns, asking why he is there. Tai answers quietly. Someone paid him to kill a man. He apologizes. The story returns to the opening scene. Howard sinks into the blood-stained water. Just before consciousness fades, a hand reaches in and pulls him out. The last face he sees is Sharon Yang's. Then darkness. Howard opens his eyes. He is standing before AI-63. She welcomes him to the second game in the dream world. Confused, he asks how this is possible. Did he not die? The AI responds that the dead cannot choose to enter the game. Is his life threatened in reality? Memories rush back. Tai's warning. The cut across his throat. The message: go to the hospital, leave the city, change your name, disappear, or everyone you care about will die. Howard clenches his fists. Why is everything in his life a battle? There is no other option. He must fight. For himself. For the people he cares about. For the future he refuses to surrender. He looks ahead and says that if war is the only path, then so be it. The AI informs him that the Beast Invasion challenge is extremely dangerous. Without proper tools, he will die quickly. This time, he is ready to choose differently. Howard refuses the offered tools. He says he does not need shortcuts. This time, he will train like a madman. He will become stronger through effort, alone. Nothing will stop him. He steps through the portal. The Beast Invasion challenge begins. He will play the role of a warrior who survived a devastating war. He must explore, fight, and, if necessary, escape. The difficulty level is 1. He has 1880 days to survive. When his vision clears, he quickly assesses his surroundings. A bulletproof vest fits snugly over his torso. A weapon is already equipped. For a brief moment, he thinks this challenge might be manageable. Then something warm drips onto his helmet. He looks up. A monstrous green gorilla towers above him, hundreds of times larger than any normal animal. It is devouring a human corpse. Pieces of flesh fall to the ground around Howard. He does not hesitate. He runs. The ground trembles as the beast gives chase. Howard darts into an abandoned building. The gorilla, unable to see him clearly, begins smashing through walls. Concrete shatters like paper. The entire structure groans under the monster's strength. Howard reaches for his gun. He stops. He came here to train. In the real world, Tai is a trained killer. If Howard wants to survive, he cannot rely on weapons alone. He holsters the gun. The gorilla roars and throws its massive body against the building, determined to collapse it entirely. Howard grabs an iron bar from the rubble and braces himself. A whole wall hurtles toward him as the beast slams forward. He is about to be crushed. At the last second, he angles the iron bar downward, anchoring it into the ground. Using the monster's own weight and momentum, he redirects the force. The bar shoots upward, piercing through the collapsing wall and into the creature's eye. The gorilla shrieks in agony and retreats, defeated. Howard collapses to his knees, breathing hard. He survived. As he crawls out of the wreckage, he senses movement nearby. Without thinking, he grabs another iron bar and activates his aiming skill. He throws. The figure dodges backward with incredible reflexes. It is Sharon Yang. Howard rushes forward, asking if she is hurt. She stares at him in disbelief and demands to know what he is doing there. He should be in a hospital. A hospital? She explains that he burst into her room covered in blood, stumbled into the pool, and collapsed. She called an ambulance and watched as they carried him away. The pieces click into place. After Tai attacked him, he must have run blindly in search of help and entered her room by mistake. In the real world, he is likely unconscious in a hospital bed. He tells her that when he woke up, he was already here, in these ruins. She says the same happened to her. She did not choose to enter the game either. Something is wrong with this challenge. Howard thanks her for saving his life. She cuts him off. Gratitude can wait. Survival comes first. She points toward a distant structure, partially submerged. It looks familiar. Howard squints. It is their company building. Sharon calmly explains her theory. Judging by the terrain and climate, this appears to be Earth 300 or 400 years in the future. Sea levels have risen. The wind smells foul. The water may be caustic. Eventually, the world could be entirely flooded. Howard realizes he may be witnessing the end of civilization. The good news, Sharon says, is that they are not alone. The bad news is that creatures like the giant gorilla roam everywhere. She proposes cooperation. She will lead. He will protect. Howard cannot help but ask how she remains so composed. She just concluded they traveled centuries into the future. How is she not terrified? She answers simply, fear does not increase survival chances. They traverse a barren wasteland. She asks if he was once a professional dart athlete. He shakes his head. Throwing was only ever a hobby. He points out that when they first met in reality, she barely acknowledged him. She replies coldly that at the time, he was insignificant to her. Time is valuable. He warns her that if she judges people so harshly, she may never have real friends. She does not respond. They approach the fortress she noticed earlier. Before they can enter, Howard suddenly clamps a hand over her mouth and pulls her behind rocks. A massive centipede-like creature slithers overhead. When it passes, he hands her a firearm. The fortress might not be safe after all. Inside, the grounds are strangely clean. The floors and walls look maintained. Yet there are no humans. They reach what appears to be a military post. Above them looms something enormous. An eagle's nest, far too large to belong to any normal bird. A mutant eagle swoops across the sky. Sharon urges him to hide. Howard does not move. He remembers Ty's words, how he trembled helplessly with a knife at his throat. If there is one thing he wants to carry back from this dream, it is fearlessness. He plants his feet and grips his steel spears. The eagle dives. Howard unleashes a barrage of throws, one after another in a furious rhythm. Spears pierce wings, flesh, and bone. The creature screams and crashes to the ground, dead. Green blood splashes onto him. Instantly, His skin burns as if drenched in acid. He collapses, screaming, trying to wipe it away. The liquid corrodes his flesh. Sharon rushes to him, helpless. Suddenly, heavy gears grind. The fortress gate opens. Unknown. A robot emerges. Wounded human detected. Emergency medical system activated. From its remaining arm, it produces a syringe and injects Howard without explanation. A wave of dizziness overwhelms him. Power levels low. System shutting down. He blacks out. When he wakes, he is inside what resembles a military base. His burns are gone. Sharon explains that the injection healed him almost instantly. Only his hair looks strange now. The robot's head glows red as it recharges. Then it announces that a large contaminated area has been detected. It exits the fortress, lifts its head, and unleashes a flamethrower onto the eagle's corpse. Howard stares in confusion. Sharon notices the number printed on it. 2003. The robot speaks again. Autopilot mode has ended after 1030 days. During that time, it endured 363 creature attacks, cleaned 45,000 tons of garbage, and sustained severe damage. Maintenance is required. A blue light pulses from its core. It begins speaking differently. It admits it did not work hard enough. Humans left. If it keeps the fortress clean every day, perhaps humans will return. Sharon asks if there are no humans here at all. The robot confirms it. Humans said that if they could not fly within a year, they had probably gone to paradise. It searched, but could not find paradise on any map. It asks them where paradise is. Howard looks at the lonely machine, still tirelessly cleaning an empty world. He quietly tells it that perhaps it is better not to know. Howard watches Sharon walk ahead of him and quietly says that if this robot has been running on autopilot for 3 years, then the humans who once lived here are most likely long dead. Sharon does not argue. Instead, she tells the robot to take them to the storage room. It is time to reassess and make new plans. Then she turns and walks off, already thinking ahead. Howard cannot help but notice it again. No matter how catastrophic the situation becomes, Sharon Yang remains composed. Even in a ruined world hundreds of years in the future, surrounded by monsters and acid oceans, she can calmly evaluate resources and design a strategy. Her emotional stability is almost frightening. Inside the storage room, the robot begins listing their supplies. There are human weapons, but no ammunition. There are compressed energy bars, designed to last for 100 years, tough as jerky. There is a chemical compound humans used to heal injuries. They called it Medusa's tears. However, excessive use causes rust-like growths on the body. Howard stiffens. He asks whether that is what the robot injected into him and whether he's going to turn to stone. The robot assures him the dose was within safe limits. Then a pair of scissors extends from its body, and it begins trimming Howard's damaged hair. It explains that the potion cannot fully repair the nervous system. Some humans fought recklessly and relied too heavily on it. Eventually, they became vegetative. Howard clicks his tongue in disappointment. For a moment, he had imagined using the potion to accelerate his martial arts training. Beyond the storage room, the fortress contains an underground reservoir and an energy center capable of continuously supplying electricity. Upon hearing that, Howard immediately asks whether there are bathrooms. He smells terrible. While he heads off to wash, Sharon questions the robot about the energy center. If power exists, why did it not recharge itself? The robot answers simply, it is a task unit. Without permission, it cannot utilize human-designated resources. Sharon mutters that a machine will always be a machine and orders it to show her the control room. There, she stands before a monitor filled with strange markings that look like scribbles. She wonders what language it is. The robot explains that humans invented this script to record the rise and fall of civilization. To ensure all intelligent beings could understand the meaning, they used symbolic storytelling. However, this language was never uploaded into the robot system. It cannot read it. Sharon opens a digital map. D. Her calm expression finally tightens. They are on an isolated island. In fact, according to the data, this is the last remaining landmass on Earth. In 179 days, even this island will be swallowed by the rising acid ocean. All mutant beasts across the planet have gathered here for safety. There will be no rescue. No food production. No ammunition. No evacuation. In short, nothing but waiting for extinction. Sharon quietly ties her hair back and says they must prepare for the worst. She asks the robot whether humans left clothing. She wants to give some to Howard. The robot says yes and offers to retrieve them. Sharon studies the machine for a moment and asks whether it knows why humans abandoned it. The robot asks if it failed to work hard enough. She steps over its damaged frame and says no. It was abandoned because it never learned how to demonstrate its true value. She does not intend to share that fate. Later, Howard exits the shower and finds the robot collapsed on the floor. Please do not leave me behind, it pleads. I can still work. And I can clean. I miss the humans. Fragments of its memories surface, children playing, animals roaming, laughter echoing through the fortress. It had been useful once. Then, suddenly, it was not. I will make this place cleaner than paradise, it insists. Howard kneels beside it and reattaches a loose optical component. The parts are worn. He asks how robots are repaired. In the maintenance room, human engineers performed repairs, the robot replies. There are no engineers anymore, Howard says. So I'll try. Just then, the bathroom door opens again. Sharon steps inside wearing a robe. She tells him the world is collapsing. There is no need for awkwardness. She has set aside clean clothes for him. She calmly explains that although their situation is dire, survival is still possible. What puzzles her is why humans would abandon a shelter with food and protection. Howard mentions the place, the robot called paradise. She dismisses the word, saying the entire world is collapsing anyway. Unless paradise offers protection from total destruction, it would not be worth seeking, unless it truly provides salvation, even at the cost of dying on the journey. As she speaks, she removes her robe and steps into the bath without hesitation. She continues analyzing the problem aloud, saying the historical records likely contain critical information. If she has time, she can decode them. Howard, however, is frozen. He cannot comprehend how she can undress so casually in front of him during a life-or-death crisis. He wonders whether she is not afraid he might lose control. Out of the corner of his eye, he notices something beneath the robe she discarded. A weapon. Sharon explains plainly that she prepared it in case she needed to subdue him. In extreme situations, psychological breakdowns are common. If he lost control, it would destroy their chances of survival. She never feared an assault. She feared losing a capable ally. Howard swallows his embarrassment. This woman operates on a completely different level than Sabrina. Her mind never leaves the broader strategic picture. He tells her he has work to do. He takes the robot and leaves. Alone in the bath, Sharon reflects that Howard is still bound by ordinary morality, even as the world ends. In a way, that is reassuring. It means she will not have to waste energy managing his impulses. Soon sparks fly in the maintenance room. Howard welds damaged components while the robot chatters again. He asks why it remained silent earlier when Sharon was present.